Welcome to episode 6 of the podcast Ghosts, Demons, and Murder. Oh my. My name is Hayden Crook, and I will be your host for today's episode on the origin and legend of Krampus. For most, the month of December is a time for cookie making, song singing, and tree decorating. But if you're from Europe, then your holiday may look completely different. Instead of jolly old Santa Claus watching your every move, you get to face the possibility of a demonic goat man literally dragging you to hell. Krampus Nacht, or Krampus Night, thought to originate in Germany and widely celebrated in countries such as Austria, Slovenia, the Czech Republic, and Hungary, is a holiday recognizing the demon Krampus. Let's dive into the beginnings of Krampus and how he became world renowned today. Source one is Krampus.com. There was an article, Krampus Through the Ages. Um, I included this source, but I'm not sure how much of it is very accurate. I did look at it, I did include it, but some of it kind of seems um, more personal interpretation than facts, but that's for all of us to decide, I guess. Listening if a source is valid or not. I try and do my best with research, but I did include this one. 2000 BC, Enkidu appears in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the earliest known appearance of a wild man in literature. 600 BC, in the book of Daniel in the Old Testament, King Nebuchadnezzar is punished by God for his pride when he is turned into a hairy beast. 217 BC, Saturnalia is introduced as a winter celebration in Rome, marked by gift-giving wild parties and a reversal of the normal social roles of slave and master. 4th century CE, or sorry, it's a typo. Due to Roman influence, many Germanic tribes such as the Goths and Vandals convert to Christianity. Their pagan traditions survive in small villages in the Alps where the church cannot penetrate. 1250 CE, King's Mirror, a Norwegian text, features a wild man character who is described as being covered in hair. 17th century CE, Necht Rupert appears as a figure in a Nuremberg Christmas procession. 1810, the Brothers Grimm began publishing stories of Germanic folk tales, marking a resurgence in Germanic pagan folklore. Early 19th century, holiday postcards from Austria, Germany, and other parts of Europe feature holiday greetings with Krampus and other companions of St. Nicholas. Early 19th century, Germanic and Dutch immigrants to the U.S. popularized Pell's nickel traditions in Pennsylvania, Maryland, and as far west as Indiana. So that was just a brief history here and there. Some of that stuff, like in the Bible and the old texts, I didn't really go back and check into that. I maybe should have, could have, but I didn't. Um, I feel like with that far back, some of that maybe is open to interpretation and opinion, but the rest of that stuff, um, 17th century and onward, about like the Brothers Grimm and um, you know Christianity spreading is pretty well known in history. So I feel like that stuff was kind of on point. So source two is the History Channel. Krampus and Saint Nick's other bad boys have their origins in pagan celebrations of the winter solstice. Later, they became part of Christian traditions in which Saint Nicholas visited children to reward them on December 5th or 6th. Around that time, his menacing partner would also visit children to punish them in Alpine Austria and some parts of Germany. This day was known as Krampusnacht or Krampus Night, when adults might dress up as Krampus to frighten children at their homes. Children might have also seen Krampus running through the streets during a Krampuslauf, literally a Krampus run. If Krampusnacht was a way to scare kids into behaving themselves, the Krampuslauf, which isn't tied to a specific day, was a way for grown men to blow off steam while probably still scaring kids. Austrian men would get drunk and run through the streets dressed as a fearsome creature. Like Krampusnacht, the Krampuslauf tradition continues to the present day. The introduction of mass visual media couldn't help but sweep the charismatic Krampus up in its wave. When the postcard industry experienced a boom in Germany and Austria in the 1890s, it opened the way for Krampuskarten. These holiday cards weren't meant to make you feel warm and fuzzy. Ones marked Gruß vom Krampus, greetings from Krampus, showed Krampus stuffing a distressed child into a satchel or preparing to hit one with his bundle of birch sticks. Many of these postcards depicted Krampus going after children with his sticks, leading them away in chains or carrying them off in his bag. There were also cards that were a little more adult. Krampus cards in the early 20th century show him punishing children, yes, but also proposing to women. In some cards, Krampus is portrayed as a large woman whipping tiny men with her birch sticks and carrying them off in her satchel. In another, a smiling woman dangles a defeated looking Krampus in the air, holding his bundle of birch sticks behind her back. You can draw your own conclusions about the gender politics in these. For over a century, most Americans probably never saw a Krampus card or even knew who Krampus was. That changed in 2004 when art director and graphic designer Monty Beauchamp published a book of Krampus cards and helped organize an art show inspired by the cards. Whether or not Beauchamp is primarily responsible for introducing Krampus cards to the US, Krampus has since become a sort of ironic icon in America. Etsy has a whole section of items inspired by classic Krampus cards. If you don't have time to send cards, you can buy an ugly Krampus sweater to wear to your local Krampus party or Krampus loaf. Krampus' popularity in the US arguably peaked with the 2015 feature film Krampus, which shouldn't be confused with the many other low budget Krampus movies. Although Krampus is relatively new to the US, this Alpine legend is the original Bad Santa. I liked that source. It gave us some history, a more definitive timeline, I feel like. Talked about the Krampus Christmas cards, which I thought was interesting. Maybe next year I'll have to look into sending out some Krampus Christmas cards to people. I thought that was interesting. Source 3 is the Smithsonian Magazine. In fact, Krampus roots have nothing to do with Christmas. Instead, they date back to pre-Germanic paganism in the region. His name originates with the German Krampen, which means claw, and tradition has it that he is the son of the Norse god of the underworld, Hel. Or I'm probably saying that wrong, but I tried. During the 12th century, the Catholic Church attempted to banish Krampus celebrations because of his resemblance to the devil. More eradication attempts followed in 1934 at the hand of Austria's conservative Christian Social Party, but none of it held, and Krampus emerged as a much feared and beloved holiday force. For some, the annual festive of child hunting Krampus is fun, but concerns that refugees in the Alpine towns that celebrate Krampus could find the tradition frightful and has prompted some towns to consider taming the horror. This year, Krampus' scheduled arrival in the Alpine towns that celebrate him coincides with the influx of refugees from Syria and Afghanistan. Though the festival is well loved, it gave rise to concerns that the new neighbors might be scared of the tradition and its nightmare-fueling costumes. Rather than canceling the parade, town officials decided to educate the newcomers. The Telegraph's Rosina Saber writes that refugee children in Leans were invited to a presentation where they learned about the props, costumes, and customs of Krampus. Sagers likes the idea of introducing Krampus to refugees in Austria. I think it's wonderful that they want to get the refugees used to this sort of thing, he says. You can't force people to adopt cultural traditions of which they have no basis or point of reference. Tell that to the Americans. That's another soapbox that we're not going to get into. Cultural assimilation, fun stuff. Anyway, source 4, Salzburg.info, and this is from a town in Austria. The wild jangling of bells, shaggy pelts, curved horns, and terrifying masks. When Krampus and Perchten run down the street Growling, half dancing, half stamping, every single spectator is left just a little unsettled. Krampus and Perchton parades truly are an unforgettable experience as part of Salzburg's Christmas season as the famous Christ Kindelmark and the almost meditative Advent singing. From the end of November until the beginning of December, you can also experience this unique folk custom in the city of Salzburg itself. While no one would claim Perchton parades are peaceful, they will definitely leave you with lasting memories. An ancient tradition you can experience only in this part of the Alpine world. It is said that at every Perchton parade, there is actually one real perched in the masses. And when you observe these wild characters from a safe distance, as the many lights reflect off their creative masks, you sometimes do have to take a second look. Did I just see an ear twitching there, or was it just the wind? Isn't there always some kernel of truth to every legend? Now, Perched, Krampus, the Krampus Pertin, and the witches have already passed us by, but we will be lining the streets again next year as the Passe Parade by provoking occasional shrieks from spectators. And perhaps then we will be able to pinpoint precisely which one of the Perchton, I was saying that wrong, it's Perton, is the real thing. My bad. Side note, citizens of Milwaukee, Wisconsin have apparently been hosting their version of Krampusnacht for the past 6 years. So if you live in the US, definitely go and check that out. Before I conclude, I would like to briefly discuss the 2015 film Krampus, which I am a huge fan of, by the way. I literally have to watch it every December. I'm going to discuss the authenticity of the movie compared to the origins of Krampus that we just explored and discussed. Source 5 is Screen Rant. This is literally one of the only sources I could find about the authenticity and how the 2015 version of the Krampus movie compared to the legend and the other films and spin-offs and whatever has been made. So, yeah, if you find any other sources or any other, yeah, that'll be great. But this is all I could find when I was doing my research. So it says, whereas most variations of the folklore features Krampus targeting children who misbehave ahead of Christmas, the movie focused on the notion of lost Christmas spirit by focusing on naughty kids. The folklore had the power to introduce an evil enemy of Santa, who is traditionally known to reward children who behave. Krampus took a broader scope by going after an entire family that lacked Christmas spirit. Instead of punishing them as the legend suggests, the creature used its strongest powers to transport them to hell. This action is considered extreme compared to most details in the Krampus mythology, proving that Doherty was aiming for the bleakest fate for the family that came face to face with the Christmas devil. Other movie adaptations of the Krampus mythology include Krampus the Reckoning, Krampus Unleashed, and A Christmas Horror Story. In truth, few of these movies are at all good in comparison to Doherty's. This is primarily due to the fact that they utilize an egregious amount of gore and transform a relatively tame creature into one filled with malice and revenge. He goes against St. Nicholas as if they had a century long rivalry, but this is never present in the actual mythos of Krampus. When directors make the Christmas demon into a malevolent force, rather than a cautionary tale, it removes the true essence and originality of the character. The movie does break away from some traditional elements of Krampus, especially with the Yule lads who are owned by the witch Grilla from the Icelandic folklore, who are featured in the chilling adventures of Sabrina Winter Special. He utilized the behaviors of the Yule lads to personify the gifts in Krampus's bag. He sends in dolls, presents, gingerbread, and more to torment the Engels and trick the children into coming with him to hell. He's predominantly tied to Germanic and Austrian culture as the folkloric devil merged with the Christian tradition in Central Europe. This is likely the reason that Doherty made the Engels matriarch a woman of Germanic descent who dealt with Krampus in her childhood. The director worked diligently to ensure that every piece of the Krampus mythology, folklore, and origins were covered in the 2015 movie by making the grandmother a German woman with experience with the devil and telling his history orally, as it is still done today. He captured the essence of the early emergence of the Christmas demon. His appearance is an um, um, amalgamation. Words are hard. His appearance is an amalgamation of several variations that tend to be more or less the same. When Doherty ensured that all variations were accounted for, he recognized the difficulties of pinning down a specific mythological belief and utilized the several available to make one terrifying demonic presence. Ultimately, it is a testament to how detail oriented Michael Dougherty is when creating holiday horror movies such as Krampus, especially because these details make it the definitive version of the demon. So that's it. This was a shorter one. I My schedule's been kind of crazy with work and with college and everything, so I had some time this weekend to film this episode. Um, Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Ghosts, Demons, and Murder. Oh my! Um, Let me know in the comments, what you think of the Krampus movie. If you like it, if you think it's cheesy, dumb. My mom hates it. Hates it. Um, I personally enjoy it. I also like Trick or Treat from Michael Dougherty. I like his movies. I think I like the way he does it. Um, so yeah, let me know. Hopefully, you enjoyed this episode. If you live in Milwaukee, go ahead and go to the Krampus Notch Festival whenever they do. I know it passed already this year, 2023, but maybe next year go check it out. I think that'd be something fun to do. So next time we'll be discussing Christmas and holiday ghost stories, which apparently I found this out is a tradition in England, in the UK. It's like tradition back in the day to like tell ghost stories, spooky stories during Christmas, apparently. So that will be interesting. So yeah, look forward to that next time, and thank you for listening.